Yep, share your screen back. And then I'm going to hit broadcast. Here we go. There we go. Participants. Yep.
All right, hello everybody. We're just going to give one more minute to let people join in. I still see the list growing. So welcome everyone. All right, we're getting close. All right guys, one more minute. Just let people continue to join in. Really glad you're here today. Looking forward to chatting with you. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. All right, there we go. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So let me do a quick sound check with the panelists. Can you guys give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? All right, awesome, great. So hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm Taylor Pressler. I'm the head coach of the Bexley Marlins. So this is our parent informational meeting. This meeting is being recorded. So just a quick review of meeting etiquette, and then I will jump right into the content. Everybody, if you haven't already, please go ahead and mute yourselves so we don't have any extra background noise. If you have a question as we go through our presentation today, there is a Q&A section. Please write your question in there. We're going to come around at the end to answer questions. If we've answered a question as part of the presentation, then we'll do a recap for that answer to make sure everybody has the information. And last point, we are recording this meeting, and at the end of this meeting, or sometime within the next 24 hours, we will be posting a parent information packet, which we would normally hand out, in paper, but that will go on the website along with a link to the recording to this meeting. So you will have a chance to look at those materials, get access to them, and share them if you have any friends that weren't able to make it this evening. Okay, with that in mind, let's get started. So a couple of key objectives for our meeting today. Really, this meeting is about making some introductions, helping you guys get to know the people who lead the team, both from the parent board point of view, Bexley Rec, and as well as the coaching staff. And then we're going to spend the bulk of our time reviewing the program for the upcoming 2021 season. So in terms of our specific agenda and topics, we'll start with welcome and introductions. I'm going to introduce the coaching staff, some of whom were able to join us this evening. We're going to go into depth about the program, what to expect this summer, and we'll also then dive into the COVID protocols. So specifically the things that we are going to be doing, some of the key changes that we're making to make this a COVID safe environment for all of our swimmers. We will be going through team communication, what to expect and what that will look like. We'll also be covering parent volunteer opportunities. And at the end, we will go through the Q&A as promised. All right, so let's go ahead and start with introductions. As I said, I'm Taylor Pressler. I'm the head coach of the Bexley Marlins. This will be my third year, well, fourth year if we hadn't canceled last year, but third year actively coaching on the Marlins. I'm a former swimmer and, a big fan of the sport overall. And the Marlins is my favorite. There's just so much fun energy. I love working with all of the kids from, the little kids that are 5 and 6 all the way up to the teenagers. I also coach part-time at Columbus School for Girls during their high school season. So it's definitely, a hobby and a passion for me. I'm going to let Bill Lifton introduce himself, then Natalie, and then we'll go into the coaches and let some of the coaches who are present introduce themselves.
Thanks, Taylor. Hey, everybody. I'm Bill Litfin. I'm here representing the parent board. I was also a swimmer as a kid, and I'm a parent of two swimmers, Stella and Julian. As I see some parents on the list here, some of you probably know them. And so I'm here. I'll be back later to talk about communications and volunteer opportunities, but I'm happy to be here and happy we're going to have kids in the pool this summer.
All right, thanks, Bill. My name is Natalie Marlin. I'm with the Bexley Recreation and Parks Department. Most of you, I would think maybe, and a lot of the returning families probably know me. If there's any new families out there, you probably have started to get a lot of emails from me over the last few weeks as it relates to pool stuff and or activities at the rec department. But our relationship is to help basically facilitate swim team being in the pool, and we work, they work through us to make sure that we can to make sure that they get what they need at the pool, within reason, of course. And but we work out a nice little schedule, and we have a good working relationship. So we're here to help in any way we can.
Oh, thanks, Natalie. So yeah, so Bill, Natalie, and I are the three key contacts for the season itself. So if you have a question about Bexley Parks and Rec in terms of pool availability or pool resources, Natalie's your gal. If you have questions about, parent volunteerism or, how we enable the season to work from the parent board perspective, that's going to be Bill. And then if you have questions about how the program will work in terms of what we teach the kids, how we do it, things of that sort, that will be me. So hopefully everybody gets a face to put with a name. And with that, let me move in then to talk about the coaches. So really excited this year for our coaching staff. So all of our assistant coaches are veterans of the Marlins, so they'll be familiar to all the kids. Libby Stadler who's on this call, and I'm going to give her a second to introduce herself. She's going to be functioning as my assistant head coach. So Libby is going to be taking on a broader role in terms of the team this year. She's going to be the point person for meet registrations, making sure that our meets are put together in the right way, and really being my right-hand person in terms of making sure that the season runs smoothly. So Libby, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yep. Hi, I'm Libby. I am going to be primarily working with the 9 and 10-year-olds, but I will also be, like Taylor said, functioning as assistant head coach. So I will get to know all of the kids, which I'm very excited about because I also really enjoy working with all age groups. I was a swimmer as a kid also, and I have been working in a pool setting since I was 12 years old, between swim lessons, lifeguarding, pool management, for, let's see, that's a lot of years now, too many to count. And then I also work at Jeffrey Mansion Preschool as a preschool teacher during the year. And so I just really enjoy the kids. I enjoy the pool environment, and I work for Unified Aquatics Club as well. So I'm very excited for this season. This is my also fourth-ish year with the Marlins, and I love the team, love the energy. It's great, and I'm excited for this year. Yep.
Very good. So at all times, either Libby or I will be on deck. So if not both of us. So you should always kind of, if you're looking for someone to talk to, if you don't find me, look for Libby. If you don't find Libby, look for me. So her and I will be really championing and leading all of the activities on deck, whether it's at practices or at meets. In terms of our other coaching staff, they weren't able to join tonight because it's also the high school banquet night tonight. So I told them to go enjoy their celebration. But we do have Elise Fox returning. She will be coaching with me at the varsity level. She'll be in charge of the 11-12 age group. We have Gavin, and as I said, Libby will be there. She's going to be taking the lead for the 9-10 age group. So I'll be at varsity practices. She'll be at junior varsity practices. Then we have Atticus Keels, who again is going to be returning. He was a junior coach 2 years ago, and he is now going to be taking on a bigger role as an assistant coach and leading the 7-8 age group. Then we have Gavin Levine, who is also returning. He was previously a junior coach and now returning as an assistant coach and leading the 5-6-year-old age group. We also have Hunter Johnson, who will be coming to us. He'll be working part-time, and so helping out with the little kids, the 5-6-year-olds. So they need the most hands-on support, as they're learning their way around the lanes. And then we have Annabelle Johnson, who's going to be joining us as our junior coach this year. So really excited to have her. One of my favorite things is watching, swimmers grow up, come into their own, and then start to really kind of build their own leadership skills on deck as a junior coach, and then eventually transitioning into assistant coach. So Annabelle is carrying on that legacy with us, and really happy to have her as part of the team as well. All right, so let's get into the meat of the presentation, which is talking about the program itself and what to expect. Okay, so program requirements. So for those of you who are veteran parents, this will look very familiar. And those of you who are new, let me walk you through this a little bit. So our team is a recreational competitive swim team. We're only operate in the summer. We're part of an outdoor league. And so our league is the Tri-County Aquatic League. And so that's under normal years, that's the league that we participate in for both swim meets as well as the end of year championship meet. We are open to any swimmer age 5 to 18. Competitive experience is not required for this team. In fact, the Bexley Marlins is the perfect place to test it out, to see if kids enjoy the sport and help build the love of the sport. And it helps them, determine, do they want to take the leap into a bigger commitment and move into a club team? And some kids do, and some kids say, I just love doing the summer swimming, and they have other sports that they keep in mind. And all of those answers are fine. We're here really to have fun and to build a love and skill for the sport. Our season this year will start on June 7th, and it will run continuously through until July 23rd. Our key work here, as I mentioned briefly, is we're here to develop 4 competitive swim strokes: freestyle, backstroke, breaststroke, and butterfly. Those are the 4 key strokes. Now, while we are open to all ages and all kids, 5 to 18, we do have some minimum requirements for it. And this is really to ensure safety, both for your swimmer as well as the swimmers around them. And I'm sorry about the background noise, as many of us have experienced. COVID Zoom meetings always have a little extra noise to them. So to ensure a safe environment for all, there's 3 key requirements. Swimmers must be able to enter the water on their own. That includes without a parent on deck. So we need to know that our swimmers are comfortable enough getting into the water without being really coached or guided into it. That's something that they have that level of comfort there. Swimmers also need to be able to be comfortable swimming in deep water where they can't touch. This means that they don't feel the need to be reliant on lane lines or on a kickboard or flotation devices. They should be able to feel like they can be in the water, not able to touch, and okay with that. And then the final requirement is that swimmers must be able to continuously swim a minimum distance. Now, I always get a lot of questions about this. It doesn't have to be pretty. Okay, that's what we're here for, to help teach. But we do need swimmers to be able to complete that distance without aid of the lane lines, without stopping. But what it looks like to get to point A from point B, if they can get there, we're happy to work with that, especially for the really young little kids. So for those who are ages 5 to 10, it's 25 yards. That's one length of the pool. That's starting at one end and going down to the other end. If your child is age 11 to 14, it's 50 yards. So that would be a full lap. So that would be starting and ending at the same point. So going down and coming back. And then if you're in the older age group, 15 to 18, it's 100 yards. The reason we've picked these minimum distances is because these are the distances of their events at a meet. So we need to have a reasonable belief and confidence that they'll be able to complete a race in at least one stroke. Okay, so let's talk about team divisions and age groups. We have 2 divisions on our team, a junior varsity division and a varsity division. This determines the practice time for the kids. So if you are on junior varsity, you practice from 8 to 9 a.m. Those age groups are the 5-6-year-olds, the 7-8-year-olds, and the 9-10-year-olds. For coaches, they're really focused on developing a legal stroke technique. So meaning that they can swim a meet and be able to complete their event without being disqualified. And they're also working to develop an appropriate aerobic endurance. So these, really just trying to help them build their distance. They're going to take breaths. That's okay. We're not focused on it so much at that age. We want them to be able to feel strong and confident in the water. For the varsity team, they will practice from 7 to 8 a.m. in the mornings. Now, these are typically the older kids, 11, 12-year-olds, 13, 14-year-olds, 15 to 18-year-olds. They're going to have more intense practices. So we're really working now on refinement of competitive techniques. So they come to varsity with an expectation or a moderate expectation of having a legal or at least very close to legal stroke. And we're really working with them to advance their aerobic and their anaerobic endurance. So what that means is not just being able to swim the distances and swim them well, but then also starting to work on things like breath control and so on and so forth. Now there is, every year we do have a lot of kids of varying abilities on this team, as I mentioned before. And so for kids in the 9-10 age group, we do always have a cohort of kids who swim year round. And they're, very experienced swimmers, usually practicing at the club level. If those kids would like to age up into varsity, we are very willing to entertain that thought. It's a little different this year because of COVID. We need to make sure that there's spots available. So if you have a swimmer in the 9-10 age group that is a full-time club swimmer that you feel would be appropriate to practice at varsity, knowing that that is a more intense workout, you just need to let me know. We can do an evaluation, and then on a space available basis, we'll be able to move them up. And that will also then free up spots to then take on kids from the wait list as we can. Key dates for this season. Registration, always the big topic. Registration will open on Monday, May 17th. Natalie, is there a time of day associated with that opening?
Yes, I think we have noon set. So since it's a Monday, it's lunchtime.
Okay.
So hopefully parents have an opportunity to do that.
Perfect. Okay, so Monday at noon, registration will open up. And I'm going to talk more about COVID in a minute. I just want to make sure everybody's very clear on the timing of when that will open. We will start our practices on Monday, June 7th. We will not have any evening practices this year. For some of the more experienced parents, we did historically start in the evenings during that last week of school. But just given some of the different constraints we have on pool time, and Bexley Rec also needs to open up their pool availability as well, we are just going to skip over that last week of school and start off with our regular morning practice schedule on Monday, June 7th. And we are going to be doing intra-squad only meets this year. Again, I'll get into those details a little bit more in a minute. We have 3 meets on the schedule, all Wednesdays, and warm-ups will begin, I believe I said at 5 o'clock, meet starts at 6 o'clock. I'll double check that, it's in the parent information packet. We also may add a 4th meet, which would be a Saturday meet in July. This is always a big favorite. It's the Jenny Nickel meet. And so it's a very special meet intended to honor someone named Jenny Nickel, who used to be a swimmer and a coach on the Bexley Marlins team. And she unfortunately died at a young age. So her family comes and they participate in the meets. And it's also an opportunity to gather donations for a cause that was close to her heart. So if and when we're able to get that scheduled, we're working with a family now on that, we'll get that added. And then the last day of swim practice will be Friday, July 23rd. Okay, so let's start talking about COVID protocols. Okay, so you know, as with most things over the past year, we can't do it the way that we normally would. So we've had to make some changes to how we're managing our season, both from our practices and our meets. So in our practices, we are restricting our practices to 4 swimmers per lane. And so with that, our intent was to open up registration to as many kids as we could. We have 8 lanes, so 4 kids per lane. We can only have 32 kids in the water at any given time. We are restricted on our pool time. So Bexley Rec has worked really closely with us. We've been looking at all of the different options, but we have those 2 hours Monday through Friday for practices. So it wasn't possible for us to open up in terms of additional practice time. I have yet to meet the kid who's, you know, a young one who's excited about getting in the water at 6 a.m. So with that in mind, we wanted to make this season as available as possible to as many kids as possible. So we have split into 2 practice groups, an A group and a B group. A group will practice on Mondays and Wednesdays. The B group will practice on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We will be alternating our Friday practices. So A group will swim Monday, Wednesday, Friday 1 week, and the B group will swim Tuesday, Thursday. The following week, the A group will only swim Monday, Wednesday, and the B group will swim Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So we're trying to, again, open up the opportunity to get in as many practices as we can. Parents, you will choose your practice group during registration, and you are locked into your practice group. So we're not going to be able to be very flexible in terms of moving kids around in terms of different groups. So the group that you sign up for is the group that you're committing to for the season. Okay, so for our meets, pardon me while I move this. So for our meets, we're going, as I mentioned previously, we're going to be doing intra-squad meets this year. I know that this has been a topic of conversation, so I wanted to call this out explicitly in terms of some of the reasoning behind this. So normally we do as I mentioned, our TCAL League. And in our TCAL League, we do 6 meets over 6 weeks. And then there's a big championship meet at the end, usually in a very large facility. It's a ton of fun, lots of teams on deck, and it's just a fabulous event. This year, there's no champs. So there's no facilities that are available to do the champs. And as well, TCAL, it would still lock us into a TCAL schedule. However, each team each week has to coordinate how they're going to do it, if they're going to be virtual or if they're going to be live. So, and then we would be virtual. I had already, you know, after talking with various entities, you know, such as Bexley Rec, and trying to understand what the state and local guidelines were, we decided that virtual meets, if we went that route, would be the way to go. So we had to think through pool time availability as well. So normally we work with Bexley Rec to have 3 home meets a year, and then we have 3 away meets. This year, if we have to do all virtual, that means we have to have 6 meets. Bexley would have to close down the pool. And so there's lots of logistics to work through. In addition, it also locks us into the TCAL schedule, which is 6 meets over 6 weeks. That means that we need to be able to fully staff enough officials and timers and other volunteers to carry on a TCAL sanctioned meet. So with all of that in mind, and given that there was no opportunity to do a championship meet at the end of the season, therefore making the logistics more, you know, worthwhile to work through, we did go ahead and make the decision to do 3 inter-squad meets instead, and to really build the flexibility so that it was easier to work with all of the various entities that we needed to work with. With that in mind, our focus will still be to have a competitive meet format. So while it will be an intra-squad meet, it will still have a common meet format. It will still feel very familiar to the kids. And another thing we were weighing was that if we were going to do virtual meets only, there was going to be no experiential difference for the kids if we did virtual meets versus an intra-squad meet. So either way, they're going to be on deck. They're going to be cheering for each other. They're going to be swimming. It's going to be a good time. We are still part of the TCAL League. So we have not left our league. We're just choosing not to participate in the meets this year. And we will, I still sit on the board of that league, as does another parent. And we are looking forward to and planning to return to TCAL next summer. All right. Team communication. And then with this, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to our fearless president, Bill Lifton.
Hey, everybody. So there are going to be a couple of key communication channels that we'll use throughout the year. So primarily, if you're part of the team last year, we will do weekly emails with updates and announcements, and that'll be updates from the coaches, reminders of timing for meets, other things that we may need to be available or made available to parents each week. We will also do meet registration. So any of you who have participated in the past, this is literally are your kids going to swim in the meet, so that Taylor and the rest of the coaches know to slot them into events. That will be done as a Google survey, which will come out about 10 days before the meet. It'll get closed out about 3 days before the meet. It's a little clunky if you have multiple kids. You'll need to do it for each kid. But it's the easiest way for us to make sure that the coaching staff knows who is going to be at individual meets, because we know it's summer and people have plans and things that come up. Finally, related to weather and emergency information, and I guess just any sort of late breaking news from the team, there is an app that we use called Remind. There are setup instructions in the parent information packet. There are also setup instructions on the Marlins website that explain how to do all of that. So take note of that. What I would also say is email, website, and we do post in the Facebook group, the Marlins Facebook group, are where we will push messages out. I would also note that the parent board, the coaches, the team, Bexley Parks and Rec, are not actively monitoring the social media space for comments. So don't necessarily put a timely question there that you're looking for a very quick response to. There is a coach email and a parent board email that you can use to get a hold of us. So communication, again, very straightforward. It's usually sort of flow down. Here's what's going on. Here's what's next. Here's what to expect. Key timing, key dates. Oh, this is still me. Parent volunteer opportunities. So this is my plug. Parent volunteers are essential for us to deliver a 2021 season. They're essential for us to deliver a season for everybody in a couple of ways. One, volunteering is what makes meets happen. So we need timers. We need people to stick stickers on ribbons. We will need officials. We will need meet setup and tear down. We are expecting every family to volunteer a couple of times to help this out. All of these are sort of no stress, no headache kind of jobs. Being a timer, we will show you how to do it. If you need to be an official, we can provide some basic training on that. Meet setup and tear down is literally like, pick this table up and move it over there. So there will be opportunities to volunteer throughout. This is my plug for the parent board. The door is open to join the parent board. If you think about what the role the parent board plays, is we are sort of like volunteer plus. We're here to support the team, to support the coaches, to wrap the program and the kids in the program with other things that make it a full season. So although this year will be a little different, where there's not a champs and we won't have a spaghetti dinner before the champs, it's the parent board that makes the spaghetti dinner happen. It's the parent board that makes sure there's concessions at the meets. So if you were thinking about a time to join the parent board, I would say this is the year, because there is a little less going on. It's a little more modest of a commitment. But I would say there are both easy jobs or not easy jobs. They're both like little jobs and big jobs in the parent board if you want them. So again, let me think here. I have some notes. So within the parent board, you can help with communications, you can help with spirit or events. So I know that the 4th of July event in Bexley is sort of on a maybe right now. So if we were going to do something with that, somebody from the parent board would help us out with that. There's coordinating volunteers, all of that sort of thing. Again, there are sort of a little or a lot commitments. If you just said like, hey, I want to work behind the scenes, we can find something to do where you can work behind the scenes. I will say a couple names have been passed to us already. We wanted to traverse through the this parent meeting, but we will reach out to you in the coming days and weeks. I would also say feel free to raise your hand, and we will get in touch with you.
All right, thank you so much, Bill. I do have one other point I wanted to make while I have an opportunity. I know that I've had a couple of questions already so far regarding kids who would like to swim just the meets. These would be club swimmers who are swimming over the summer with one of our local club teams and only want to participate in the meets. Therefore, they don't need to take a practice spot away. We are going to have a separate registration group available for them so that if you have a swimmer, for instance, who is a 9-10-year-old, is going to be a meet only option, means that you can go ahead and register them, and that will pull them into our roster. It'll pull them into our system, and you can sign them up for meets as you need. Just keep in mind, though, that if you go that option, we will not have a spot available at a practice. So we can't make that work, but we want, again, to open up our team to as many kids as possible who want to swim. Marlins is a special place, and it's a special bond, swimming next to your neighbors and your friends from school. So we're doing our best to make sure that we can be as inclusive as possible. Okay, with that in mind, if you have questions, you can go ahead and put them into the Q&A, and we are happy to answer your questions.
And I would say at this point, no questions have been entered. So I don't know if there are no questions. Okay, so there is one in the chat. So the question is, will there be an A and B group for each age group?
Oh, great question. Yes, and so no, not for each age group. So the 5 and 6-year-olds are automatically going to be a B group. They'll be Tuesday, Thursday. The 7-8-year-olds will automatically be an A group, so they'll be Monday, Wednesday. Then from 9-10 up, then yes, you can choose your A and your B group.
Okay, I have another question. Is there a penalty for missing an intra-squad meet for vacation?
No. So again, the beauty of having a more flexible season this year is that you can miss a meet and there's no downstream penalty. In other years, there's never a penalty per se, but in other normal years, if we have swimmers who want to do the TCAL champs, there are a minimum number of meets that they have to attend in order to qualify for champs. But we can be super flexible. So if your kiddo can swim one meet this year, that works for us. So no penalties.
All right, I have 2 meet logistics questions. One is, they are completely unrelated, but I'm going to throw them to you together. One is, do the 5-year-olds have to jump from the blocks, or can they start in the water? And the second is, without a bullpen, how are we going to organize the meets?
Okay, both really good questions. So let me start with number 1. Kids do not have to jump from blocks. We do work on that in practice. So it is a skill and courage that we work towards, but certainly, especially for the really little ones, they can jump from the side of the pool or start from in the water. But that would be an area that we would try to help them grow over the summer. So for instance, at the beginning of the season, if they're only an in water only start, we're going to try to help them grow at least to, be able to start from the pool deck, if not on the block. And I say that as my own daughter was 5 years old 2 years ago, and that was definitely her. So she started the season only refusing. She would only start in water. And by the last meet, she did a block start. We were so proud of her. So it is something we will work on, and we will work within their comfort level on. Okay, so for question number 2, no bullpen this year, how are meets going to be organized? So let me start with a definition of the bullpen, just in case we have parents who aren't familiar with that. Bullpen is basically a way to help organize the young kids. I think it's 10 and under. So they go to the bullpen first, they get lined up by volunteers into their lane and heat assignments, and then they are led from the bullpen to the blocks. And it just helps create a streamlined process to get them to their blocks so they don't miss their events. We are actually trying to see if there is a way for us to safely have a version of a bullpen this year. So TBD on that. We are going to be working with some parents on developing our Meet COVID protocols, and we're also going to be following the lead of some of our local teams, club and other rec teams. So again, we're committed to finding a safe way, and if there's not a safe way, then we'll figure out an alternative. But we have not figured out, we have not determined that there will be no bullpen this summer. We're still working through it.
Okay. Natalie, I have two sort of a registration logistics question.
Okay.
One is, what if one sibling gets in and another doesn't? And then how does the wait list work?
Yeah, so if I don't know how we want to tackle the sibling getting in versus not getting in. Because I'm assuming that could happen. I guess, Taylor, that would be if I guess I would do it if they were like, took up spot 16 and then their next one was 17. I mean, honestly, I would leave that up to you as to how you want to do that. Is it possible to even get them in based on the maximums?
No, unfortunately not. We have to go on a first come, first serve basis. And just be clear, this is the hard, crappy part of COVID, right? So I just want to say that up front. If we're in situations where we have a sibling who is able to get in because they were in an older age group, there were more spots versus an younger sibling, they would get put on the wait list. The other sibling would be put on the wait list. And if a spot opened up, then we could move them in. But again, it's going to be on a first come, first serve basis. So, at that point, a parent could decide if they want to, pull the spot for, from their older child. Since both kids can't participate, we'll leave that up to the parents. In terms of the wait list, Natalie, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, I mean, what was the question again? It was just, how do we handle that? The wait list, do we just reach out? I think that was the question, right?
Yeah, how does the wait list work?
Yeah, so like most of our rec, activities that many of you probably have gotten waitlisted on, depending on what it is. As a spot opens up, if we find out that a spot opens up based on maybe an example that Taylor just said, they end up pulling a kid because the other one didn't get in, or for whatever reason, I would let Taylor know that that's happening. We've got, she would tell me that they need to drop. We would drop that, whoever's dropping out, the spot that opens up, we just reach out. When I say we, I'm sorry, I mean me. All the registration happens through the recreation department. So I would reach out to the next person on the wait list, and then we would get you added in, and you would make payment at that time. So if you get on the wait list, there's no payment until you're actually added into the program.
So from a when standpoint, it could be any point from like day one till sort of the last possible minute.
Yeah, and Taylor, I don't think you had mentioned, we show that, or at least I've put in the system right now, that registration closes on June 1st. So that'll actually give us a week to run through and to run through anything and see where we are with numbers and if anyone ends up dropping but yeah, hopefully I would hope by week 1 we would know who's basically sticking with it for the summer and who's not, and how we need to fill.
And
okay.
I will also, because I see a couple of questions coming in around the same topic, which is, evaluating kids if they meet the minimum requirements. So let me touch on that really fast. So in previous years, I was able to do, set up, private evaluations for kids before the season started, just to kind of work with them in the water and give them a chance to see what they could do and give the parent feedback before they went ahead and registered. I can't do that this year. And so I don't have pool space. That's really what it comes down to. I just don't have pool space to be able to do that. So with that in mind, if we are in a situation where we have a child that, you sign up for the team and for whatever reason, they're either not comfortable or they're not able to swim the minimum distance needed, we will return your registration fee, and that will open up a spot from the wait list. And so that will be how we proceed.
There was one question from Claire about, let's see, selling out right away. Like, yes, I would anticipate with reduced numbers, like all of our registration open days, you probably want to be at your computer on May 10th at noon, and make sure you have all of anyone that you want to have in swim team, make sure your MyRec account is set up and you have, all your swimmers added to your family household. If you have multiple kids, there's nothing wrong with someone else logging into your account. If mom and dad both want to do it, or both grown-ups want to do it, and they want to, try to get both kids in at the same time, I would highly recommend that. I'm assuming, as Taylor mentioned, the older age group, I would assume, may not fill up quite as quickly as the younger ones. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Okay, so there is actually a question, I think, that is related to this. I did mention that 9-10s can swim up into varsity. I actually expect a fair cohort of those just based on previous year experience. But we're not going to swim swimmers down. And now in normal years, that's something that we can entertain, but because of the restrictions we have on, the number of spots and the fact that we have less spots for the younger kids, if we have an 11-year-old, we will work with that 11-year-old on varsity, even if they're on the lower end of the ability scale. I just want to keep the spots preserved as much as possible for the younger kids, just knowing that there's going to be, less spots for more requests, most likely in those age groups.
So couple other questions, and appreciate everybody's patience as we're working through this. So a question about, will there be a team suit? There is not a team. I know the answer to this, actually. So there will not be a team suit this year. So our color is blue. I know, at least in our household, my son needs a new suit. So we would buy whatever suit works. If you're going to buy a new suit of a color, buy blue. There is in the packet a link to Swimville, which will usually have some deals on things. There are a couple of questions on registration, specifically open date. It is May 17th.
Yes, just to clarify, you guys, I sent out 2 emails today, and I apologize. In both related to swim. Swim lessons open on Monday the 10th. So don't get that confused with swim team. Swim team will be opening on Monday, May 17th. Just to clarify.
So there are a question about first come, first serve. I think that has been answered. The related to that is, does volunteering help secure a spot for your child? It does not. There is a volunteer expectation for everybody. I thought I also saw a returning swimmers question that does not provide priority either.
No, it's entirely first come, first serve. We're trying to make this as fair and egalitarian as possible for everyone involved. I do have a question here about, and it's a very good question about meets. How many family members can attend meets? I'm actually so glad this question's asked. We cannot answer that quite yet, and I'll tell you why. So one of the reasons, again, we wanted to make sure we did either intra-squad or virtual only meets is that we wanted to make sure that at least one parent would be able to come and watch their kids. So, over the winter, a lot of the meets that happened with club teams were closed off to parents, and they had video feeds so that they can watch. We really wanted to ensure that at least one parent could be there. Now, that said, we are still working through the protocols for the meets, and we don't have all of those things laid out yet. The key reason is we're still waiting for updated guidelines from local and state health authorities. As of right now, at least since Natalie and I have last talked, they have not been updated since last summer. So we do expect them to be updated at both the local and the state level, but we are waiting to put out any sort of protocols for meets until we have those updates. Obviously, if we get to the point where it's June and it's a week before a meet, and we still don't have updates, then we will just go off the guidelines as they stand today.
Taylor.
But and we'll be willing to modify guidelines as well, or meet protocols as well as guidelines update. So I hope that helps.
Taylor, just to jump in, they did, and when you emailed me the other day, I know I said there wasn't anything new. They technically did update it, but they just kind of reworded stuff, so it wasn't really, nothing changed. Nothing was dramatically changed to make us think any differently than we have been for the last 2 months. So it's technically been updated, and they have new revised guidelines, but there's still a 6-foot distance in place. I mean, we still have to have a max capacity, so nothing has changed to that end yet.
Okay, I do see a couple of questions coming through about COVID protocols. If the COVID protocols change between now and June 7th, will we pivot? At this point, I don't know. I can't make any guesses about that, because what we don't know is what we don't know. So as of right now, this is the plan for the season. And if and when we get those guidelines, we'll see what they mean. But let's just plan for this being the season in terms of the number of kids per lanes and so on and so forth.
There was a question here about summer camp and swim team. And yes, you can drop your child off at the pool for swim team, and the counselors will come get the kids just like they have in the past. But we do ask, and we get information to summer camp and to Katie Sarvis, who oversees that. But we do ask that parents still do that communication with their counselor or their director for camp. So there's direct communication from you to them, knowing that you have a child that's in swim team on these days and these mornings.
Okay, I see a couple more team questions. So what is the date for age cutoff? Great question. It's June 1st. So it's the age as of June 1st determines the age group that they swim in. I have another question here about, can an 11-year-old swim up? So I specifically called out 9-10s because that would take them from JV to varsity. We also will have cohorts of the 11, 12-year-old kids that would swim up into the older age group. That's actually less of an issue. They would be, they're still varsity practice. I distribute the lanes based off of ability and, adjust the actual sets accordingly. So, we may make adjustments if, let's say, we have a large wait list of 11, 12-year-olds, but I have a bunch of open spots in the 13 and above. That's where Natalie and I will work together, because it's all part of the same practice, and it would be all under the same max of those 32 kids. Her and I will work together to move kids out of the 11, 12 to free up the wait list from there. So no worries about the swimming up piece. We'll distribute the lanes accordingly, and we will make sure to maximize the wait list if we have one in 11, 12 accordingly.
I'm scrolling through here just to make sure we pick up a couple of questions that might have fallen through the cracks. Costs and registration details for kids doing meet only.
I'm gonna do TBD on that one. Natalie and I are still working out the details of that, and so it will be a reduced cost if you're doing only meets, since you're not going to be at practices. But the exact cost of which we're still working through that. So TBD, and it should, I believe, Natalie, it'll be on the website, correct?
Yeah, it'll be another activity that just says Bexley, probably just says something related to meets only. So, and we'll make sure we have the details on there to specify that.
Okay.
Okay. A couple questions related to relays. How do we do relays with reduced number of kids? And knowing that it's summer and some people may be on vacation, and how do we wrangle relays?
Okay, good question. And so there's two answers. So relays, we have a couple of options to do within an age group. We can put together mixed relays, or we could keep them as girl, boy separate. It may depend meet to meet, just depending on the signups that we have. We also have an ability to age kids up in relays as well. We can't age kids down, but we can age them up. Libby, jump in here if you have something else to add. But I mean, our perspective as coaches is we want as many kids as possible swimming relays. I have also been known to pull in high schoolers as a way, and like 5-6-year-olds to help fill out relays, even if they're not legal, but it gives them a chance it gives the 5 and 6-year-olds a chance to do the relay, which they just think is the coolest thing ever with, one of their high school buddies. So we're prepared to be creative as necessary, but we do want to make sure we can give everyone chances to do relays. Libby, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just especially with them all being intra-squad meets. The mixed relays are honestly really fun. Even my brother, as he got into high school, they had some weird meets with mixed relays, and they were just really enjoyable. So yeah, that's definitely something. And we'll have a significant amount of kids because they'll all the A and B groups, if I'm correct, will all be at the meets. So it won't be separate at the meets. So we will have enough kids to make relays.
Yes. So that is the hope. So it's in the young age group, it's 16 5-6-year-olds, 16 7-8-year-olds. So if we want the mixed relay approach, that's 4 relays. And anecdotally, 2 years ago when my daughter was a 5-6-year-old, she was, brand spanking new in swimming, could not, was not a relay person. We had one of our high school swimmers, Ava, actually did the anchor leg of that relay, and they thought that was just the coolest thing ever. So again, we will find a way to be creative and to make it fun so everybody who wants to do a relay can do a relay.
Yep. And I think the last, and I've been scrolling up and down this list, question about masks on deck, COVID protocol. I know you spoke about COVID protocols. Do you want to address sort of when and how for masks?
Yes, I didn't call, it's in the parent information packet. I didn't call it out here. Great question. So when you're not in the water, you have a mask on. And so that'll be the protocol. I'm going to say in terms of parents, parents will only be able to attend practices and stay on upper deck this year. So they're not going to be able to be near the deck where we're actually practicing. But in terms of the protocols for masking, social distance, et cetera, that will be up to Bexley Parks and Rec to determine based off of their pool protocols for what parents will do. But in terms of the swimmers, we will have an expectation that when they are not in the water, they will be masked up.
Yeah, and just for the lingo, if you're a new parent, the lingo for the upper deck is when you walk into the pool, there's a part of the deck that you step down a couple steps before. It is literally the highest part of the deck, which is the concrete by the pool house.
Yeah, and there's tables there and things of that sort. So we have parents who bring work with them and or books or things of that sort. So, you'll have a place to kind of sit and do your thing if you'd like to watch from afar.
Yeah, and just to that, oh, sorry, Libby. Just to that point, our general rule right now for, being in the pool is going to be, keeping yourself 6 feet, 6 foot distance from other family, other families or people not in your pod. So I would fully expect that. So as you talk about the upper deck, we might need to be creative with that and space out into those grass spaces, just to, depending on how many parents are hanging out there, while they're waiting. I'm assuming, more of the younger parents probably hang out versus the older parents, but we'll work through that, and we can be flexible with that, but we can't be spread out all over the pool and down into the pool deck where the swimmers are. So but I'm assuming we can work with that how we need to, but we'll still talk through that.
As far as masks on the pool deck go, it is a great idea to get one of those small little round Rubbermaid containers to put kids' masks in, so they don't have them right next to the pool, because those get splashed and soaked.
Mm-hmm. It's a great idea.
Sorry, I was on mute. You got to have one of those, right? I think that's it. I've scrolled up and down, so we might have merged a couple of questions together when people ask the same things. I will let Taylor take us out, but just a reminder, we will post the parent information packet, which has pages and pages on everything that we talked about. We will also, once the recording is available, I think, Natalie, you said you'd post it on the YouTube channel, but we'll also put a link to it.
Yeah, we'll post it on the Bexley Rec YouTube channel, but yeah, I'll send you a link and you guys can put on your website.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for participating. Thank you to Natalie, Libby, and Bill as well for helping to answer questions and facilitate the meeting itself. Parents, thank you for joining. I just want to leave you with one last piece, which is, this was hard, right? Trying to figure out what to do for this season. And I'm very aware that we're not hitting all of the needs, right? There's still, it's not perfect. But in that imperfection, our first and primary goal is to get the kids back and have fun. So I hope that in that spirit, we can all work together, make the best out of this COVID, hangover situation, and, enjoy being back in the water, being back with our friends, and really just having a great time. So that's what I leave you with. Thank you so much for participating, and we'll see you at the pool.
All right. Thank you, Taylor.